What if the most familiar thing in your life, the constant voice in your head, isn't actually you? It narrates everything. What you're doing, what you should have done, what someone else might be thinking, what could go wrong tomorrow. It talks all day, sometimes even in your sleep. And for most of your life, you've believed that voice is who you are. But what if that belief is the root of your suffering? Zen invites us to ask a radical question. Who is thinking these thoughts? If you pause and look directly, you might notice something strange. The thoughts are just happening. You didn't choose the last one. You can't predict the next one. They arise like waves in the ocean, like wind in the trees. So who are you really? Not the waves, not the wind, but the awareness in which they appear. This isn't a theory. It's an invitation to look, to question, to discover a freedom deeper than any belief, the freedom of not being what you think. Are you ready to meet the self that exists beyond thought? You are not your thoughts. Thoughts come and go, but you, the awareness behind them, remain untouched. Pause for a moment and listen, not to the world outside, but to the voice inside your head. It's probably saying something right now. Maybe it's agreeing, maybe it's doubting. Maybe it's already thinking about what to do after this. That voice feels so familiar, so constant, so close that we naturally assume, that must be me. But what if it's not? Zen invites us to look deeper, to see that this voice is just a stream of thoughts arising in the mind. Thoughts that come and go, appear and disappear. They tell stories, create worries, rehearse arguments, remember the past, and imagine the future. But like clouds in the sky, they pass through without staying. If you were your thoughts, wouldn't that mean you disappear when they do? But you don't. Between two thoughts, something remains. You, the silent presence that observes the movement of mind, but isn't moved by it. The one who watches the parade, not the parade itself. This recognition is subtle but revolutionary. It means you don't have to believe every thought that appears. You don't have to fight them, control them, or chase them. You simply watch, with clarity, with space, with kindness. Some thoughts are helpful, some are harmful, some are just noise. But none of them are you. You are the awareness they move through. Open, spacious, untouched. And here's the freedom. Once you realize you are not your thoughts, they lose their grip. Their power fades, not because they've stopped, but because you've stopped being them. It's like sitting by a river. You see the water flowing by, but you don't have to jump in. You don't have to grab every leaf, every branch that floats past. You can just sit, watch, breathe. You are not the river. You are the witness. You are not your thoughts. You are the quiet presence behind them, the stillness that never changes, even as the mind moves on. There is no thinker, only thoughts arising. Thoughts emerge spontaneously, not from a separate self or controller. Try this. Predict your next thought. Pause. Wait. Can you do it? Chances are a thought just appeared, unexpected, uninvited, and entirely out of your control. That's the point. Thoughts arise on their own. You don't create them. You don't command them to arrive. They simply appear, like clouds forming in the sky, like waves rising in the ocean. But if you didn't choose the thought, who did? This is the question Zen asks again and again. Not to confuse you, but to wake you up. We go through life assuming there's a solid me inside, a little thinker pulling levers in the brain, producing ideas, choosing feelings, directing experience. But when we go looking for that self, really looking, we find nothing. Just more thoughts, more sensations, no center, no thinker, just thinking. This isn't nihilism, it's liberation, because if there's no fixed self-producing thoughts, then you're not bound to them. You're not obligated to identify with every idea that drifts by. You can step back and witness the unfolding of mind, just as you might watch ripples on a lake. The ocean doesn't decide to make a wave. It simply moves. Thought is the same, a movement of energy within awareness. Sometimes gentle, sometimes stormy, but always impersonal. The ego, the sense of I am the thinker, is just a thought, another ripple on the surface. Believing in it creates tension, striving, and suffering. Seeing through it creates space. This space is not blank or empty. It's full of life, full of potential. It's where creativity emerges, where presence deepens, where peace naturally resides. You don't need to get rid of thoughts. You only need to stop clinging to the illusion that you're the one creating them. Let thoughts come. Let them go, and remain as what you are. Not the thinker, not the thought, but the clear, quiet awareness in which they both appear. Freedom comes from disidentification, not control. You don't have to stop your thoughts. Just stop believing they are who you are. Most people believe the only way to find peace is by controlling the mind. If I could just stop these thoughts, if I could make my mind quiet, if I could force myself to be calm. But Zen offers something far more radical and far more gentle. You don't need to silence the mind. You just need to stop mistaking it for you. Trying to control your thoughts is like trying to stop the ocean with your hands. The more you fight the waves, the more exhausted you become. But if you simply stop identifying with each wave, stop thinking every ripple is mine, the ocean becomes something to observe, not something to fear. This is the shift, from control to clarity, from gripping to letting be. You don't have to resist thoughts. You don't have to believe them, follow them, or push them away. You just notice, a thought. Another one. And in that noticing, something profound happens. A space opens. That space is freedom. Because real freedom isn't the absence of thought. It's the absence of attachment to thought. When a disturbing thought arises, I'm not good enough. They don't respect me. This will never get better. You don't need to argue with it or force it to leave. You simply recognize, this is not me. This is a thought passing through. I can watch it without becoming it. In this simple act of witnessing, the thought loses its grip. It may linger or it may dissolve, but it no longer defines you. You don't have to fight the mind to be free. You only have to see clearly that you are not the mind. And when you stop being entangled in the inner noise, you begin to hear something far quieter and far more true, the stillness of your own presence. Emotions are visitors, not your identity. Feelings arise and pass through awareness. They do not define you. A feeling rises in the body. Tight chest, flushed face, trembling hands, anger, sadness, fear. It arrives suddenly without knocking. And before you know it, it speaks. This is who you are now. But is it? Zen invites us to look again. What if emotions are not your identity, but simply visitors? Imagine a guest house. Emotions arrive like guests, sometimes loud, sometimes tender, sometimes deeply uncomfortable. But you, the host, remain. You offer space. You don't have to entertain them forever. You don't have to kick them out either. You simply notice, allow, let be. The trouble begins when we believe the guest has become the owner. I am angry. I am broken. I am unworthy. But these are not truths. They are thoughts about feelings, built on top of the raw energy passing through. What if you said instead, anger is arising, sadness is visiting, fear is moving through me? Notice the difference. One contracts, the other expands. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds the storm. The feelings may be intense, even overwhelming, but they are not you. They arise, peak, and pass, like waves returning to the sea. This doesn't mean we suppress emotions. In fact, to see them clearly is to honor them fully. You can feel deeply without being consumed. You can hold space for grief without drowning. You can welcome fear with compassion instead of shame. The key is this: stay rooted in awareness. Let emotions dance, cry, rage, flow, but do not lose yourself in the dance. Let them come, let them move, let them go, and remain as the steady presence beneath it all. You are not your anger. You are not your grief. You are not your fear. You are the open field in which it all appears and disappears. The difference between pain and suffering. Pain is physical or emotional discomfort. Suffering is the mental resistance to it. Pain is real, the ache in your chest after a loss, the sting of harsh words, the weight of disappointment pressing silently on the heart. These are part of being human, unavoidable, universal, honest. But Zen teaches something subtle and liberating. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. What's the difference? Imagine being shot with an arrow. The sharp, immediate pain is the first arrow. Now imagine that, instead of tending to the wound, you pick up a second arrow and stab yourself again, shouting, "Why me? This shouldn't have happened. I'll never be okay." That second arrow, that's suffering. Suffering is what we add to pain through resistance, fear, and mental storytelling. We relive the moment 1,000 times. We wrap pain in judgment and carry it long after it's passed. But what if you didn't pick up that second arrow? What if, when pain arises, you simply let it be? You feel the heaviness, the burning, the grief, but you don't resist it. You don't turn it into a story. You don't identify with it. You just sit with it, gently, quietly, compassionately. In that space, something remarkable happens. The pain is still there, but it begins to soften. Without the pressure of your resistance, it begins to breathe. And eventually, like all things in this world, it passes. Zen doesn't ask you to avoid pain. It asks you to meet it with honesty and spaciousness, to let it be pain, not punishment, to feel it fully, not fuse with it. You are not the pain. You are the awareness that holds it. And the moment you stop saying, "This shouldn't be happening," the wound can finally begin to heal. All your life, you've been listening to a voice in your head. A narrator, a planner, a critic, a dreamer. It has whispered doubts, shouted fears, and convinced you that it is you. But now, you've begun to see the truth. You are not the voice. You are the one hearing it. You are not the thinker of thoughts, the holder of emotions, the bearer of identity. You are the open, silent field in which they all appear and disappear. Thoughts rise, emotions swell, pain visits, but none of them stay. None of them define you. When you stop clinging to thoughts, you discover clarity. When you stop identifying with emotion, you find compassion. When you stop resisting pain, peace emerges on its own. This is the beginning of real freedom, not by controlling life, but by releasing the illusion of control. Not by becoming someone new, but by recognizing the vastness of what you already are. So take a breath, let go of the noise, and come home to the stillness that has always been here. The ego dissolves, awareness remains, and in that simple being, nothing is missing.